Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, today is day 2 of our woodworking project, and let's review where we were last time. So this is where we left off in our last video. Basically, I'd put the first layer on, kind of glued it into place, and just put some weights on it to kind of let everything set properly. Now, it's been actually 15 or so hours since we finished the last segment, and it doesn't really take that long for the glue to set. It'll set pretty permanently in about 2 hours. So we're not going to have to do one layer or one row every day for 5 days. That'll get boring. I'm hoping to be able to get the rest of the laminated pieces on today, and I think we'll be able to get away with it with just having like a 2-hour set time between rows. So we'll be able to hopefully get the rest of the raw assembly done, the 4 pieces that I want to have on this piece today, and maybe even start doing a little bit of finishing. So let's get going with this. First thing I got to do is pull the weights off and kind of check how everything worked out. What I really wanted to do this time, sometimes in the past I've had issues where I put a little too much glue on and the glue ends up squirting out the side. I tried to put the glue on a little bit more smoothly this time and not overdo it so it didn't squirt out the side. It actually looks pretty good right now. So let's get the weights off and see what we look like. Alright, so there's the first piece. It's on there. I did get a little bit of glue squirting out under it, but I was able to kind of smooth that off with a little bit of sandpaper and kind of route it away with the chisel. So next thing I want to do is put the next piece on there. Now on the lumber that I have here, each one of these pieces of oak that I'm laminating onto the surface of the base plate there has kind of a good side and a bad side, because that's sometimes how it works with lumber. You get a side that's better than the other, and sometimes it's just simply because the manufacturer and the seller put a sticker on it and it's hard to get that sticker off and get all the glue and gunk off of it. So as I pull the pieces off, I'm going to kind of examine which side looks best, because obviously I want the best looking side to be up. So let's put on the next one and I'll show you how that works. So this is the side I've chosen for the second part, and as you can see here, the wood is bowed a little bit here in the middle, and so what I'll have to do is, in addition to getting it nice and flat, I'll have to put a clamp on it and pull this together so that it dries perfectly smooth with the adjacent layer, because you don't want to have a 1/4 inch gap there between the layers, because that just isn't going to look good. But that's the side that I've chosen. The other side is the side that has the label. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this piece up onto the platform here, and I'll show you how we apply the glue. Alright, so I got my Gorilla Glue, and I got just a plastic putty knife. This is the kind of thing that you'd use for applying drywall, if you're applying drywall to the wall and wanted to smooth off the seams or stuff like that. But it works just as well for smoothing out glue. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply a real healthy dose of my Gorilla Glue over the entire surface of the wood here. We're going to just kind of go back and forth here, because we want to basically go edge to edge as much as possible. And if you kind of put it on this way, then you're going to end up with areas that are glued and areas that aren't glued. So that's why I kind of use the putty knife to spread it out. And if it gets to the point where I'm not getting good coverage, once I apply it with a putty knife, I'll go put a little bit more glue on there, but this will probably be about right. And then I'm just going to kind of run the length of it a couple times here also, just to make sure we get a good coverage here. And then next I'm just going to kind of run the putty knife over the surface of it to kind of get it all nice and smooth. And start on the other end and go the other way. And I'll kind of go back and forth a couple times just to make sure we get good coverage. Try and get as close to the edge as possible. It's okay if it comes out the edge on the ends here a little bit, because if that squirts out the side a little bit, it's going to be all right, because ultimately what will happen is we're going to cut that part off anyway, because this part is a little bit longer than the piece that we're going to make. So now we got that covered real well. Next thing we're going to do is set it down on top of the laminated piece and put the weights on it and the clamps on it and make it all look good. Alright, so now I'm going to just bring this piece over here. Going to kind of lay it down where I want it to be. We're going to drop it right next to the piece that's there. And let's make sure the whole piece drops down here. Good. I'm going to use a little rubber mallet to just kind of line up the pieces so they're at the right. So they're all lined up real well. And then I'm going to use a couple of wood clamps just to pull everything together. Do one of these on each end to start with. And then we're going to pull the middle together, because the middle is, if you recall, is where it kind of bowed out. And we'll grab a couple more. Do one right about here. Long enough to do this. I got a few of them that are shorter than others. Yeah, this will work. And bow that together. And now we're going to put our weights on. I kicked that one a little bit, so let's reset this one. Now, just to make sure everything's seated down, because right now if it's bowed a little bit this way, it might be sticking up a little. So I'm just going to beat on this a little bit with a rubber mallet just to make sure everything's nice and flush. Because I can definitely feel it right there. And then I'm going to put my weights down. Now what I've been doing is I've been using paper towels to kind of protect the wood from the weights, because I don't want to scratch the wood. These are actually concrete blocks that are used to like anchor stuff into the ground, and I actually bought these originally for the patio cover I built in my house, but version 1 of the patio cover didn't meet code for the city. I ended up having to tear it down and never reused these, because after that I decided to lay concrete down and we anchored into the concrete, and that worked better. So ever since then, they've just been good weights that I use to use for woodwork here. They've been pretty effective for that, because each one of these weighs about 50 pounds. And now we'll let that sit for a couple hours, and we'll come back and do the next layer. See you in a couple hours. All right, we're starting to get to the point now where it's going to be necessary to bring the shelf into this room and temporarily hang it on the wall so that I can get the precise measurements to make sure it fits snugly and perfectly when I bring it in here. So while I was waiting for that layer of glue to dry, I ran out to Home Depot and bought some heavy-duty shelf brackets. These are really designed to hold not only something that's very heavy like this thing is going to be, but also it's going to be really wide here. So this'll go good. It'll fit over the whole thing. It'll securely snug it to the wall. And I also got the hardware to connect it to the wall. I'm going to use a 3/16 inch, 3.5 inch lag bolts that'll drive into the stud behind the wall here, and make sure that it holds on well so we don't rip the wall down in the process, because that's always a threat when you're dealing with something as heavy as this, is that, you know, if you just go into the drywall, you're just going to rip the drywall out. So I'm going to have to find the stud in here and anchor these brackets into the stud and get them perfectly level at the height I want it to be. Now I've decided that I kind of want to have the shelf in here kind of be at the same height as the cabinets in the kitchen, or as the countertop in the kitchen. And the top of the countertop in the kitchen is 36 inches. So since the countertop thing I'm building here is going to be 1.5 inches thick, that means the top of these shelf brackets need to be 34.5 inches off the ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start attaching these, and probably not going to get to the point where we need to bring that shelf in today, but probably tomorrow we'll start bringing this thing in here and getting some of the final precision measurements done. So let's get going on that. All right, so I got the first one in, very, very secure with the lag bolts into the stud, hit the stud right on. Had to fish for it a little bit with a drill, but once I figured out exactly where it is, it was very easy to hit the center of the stud all the way up. So now that I know where the first stud is, each one of them should be 16 inches away from the previous one. So all I need to do now is just figure out where that is, and then I'll use the level to make sure that the next bracket is level to this one, and then the third bracket is level to the second one, and so on and so forth down the line. And if I do my calculations right, it should work out very well. So let's get the rest of these installed and we'll go from there. All right, so I got 6 of these brackets on right now. I got 2 more to put on. I didn't want to sit there and show the whole process of doing all 8 of the brackets, but I'm going to show you how I did one of them here just so you can kind of get the idea. If you're interested in seeing how it looked to put all 8 of them on, you can play this segment 8 times. All right, so the first thing I got to do here is figure out where the stud is. Now you remember before I told you that the stud is approximately every 16 inches. So what I'm doing is I've got a piece of tape here that has some marks on it that are about the width of a piece of 2x4. And so I'm marking from 16 inches from this edge and lining it up to this edge, to that mark, and then from this edge to about this mark. So my stud is right about here. So what I want to do is I want to take my shelf bracket, kind of put it into place. I'm going to balance my bubble level between the 2 brackets here, lower it down until the bubble's in the middle. Then I know that the brackets are the same height. And then I'm going to use a drill bit just to kind of score the drywall just a little bit so I can see where the hole is. I'm going to come in here, put in my 1/4 inch drill bit. And we're going to drill my pilot hole. And I missed the stud a little bit on that one. One of the things I've noticed is that the studs aren't exactly 16 inches apart. For the most part, the first 5 of them I did were perfect, but this one was off by about 1 inch, and this one's off by about 1/2 inch. I think it's because generally when you have like electrical outlets like this one here, the electrical outlet is connected, or the breakout box that's behind the wall there that the electrical outlet is installed is usually connected to the side of the stud. Well, on the other side of this wall here is the refrigerator, and there's an electrical outlet about here. I tried to measure it and it didn't come out exactly right. So I can kind of feel that the stud is probably about here because I kind of, the drill bit kind of pulled this way as I went in because that's how I missed it. So I'm going to re-measure this one again. Get the level again, we'll drill another pilot hole. I'll just have to punch or patch up a couple of holes. There's one here I'm gonna have to patch up too, so not really the end of the world. It's one of those things that happens. And sometimes you just gotta be flexible. So that's gonna be my new hole. Yeah, I definitely hit the stud on that one. So that's good. So I am going to take my lag bolt, swap out my drill bit for my hex wrench bit. And we're going to drive this all the way in, just to kind of form the threads. And pull it right back out again. Put a washer on it, thread the bolt through the hole of the shelf, kind of finger tighten a couple of spins here just to kind of get it caught in there. And then we're going to go in, we're going to get that into place. And I did that a little tight, so I'm going to loosen it up a little bit. Not quite that much. There we go. Now I'm going to use my bubble level. I'm going to get my bracket nice and level, perpendicular to the ground. That's what we want. Going to set my pilot hole. There's my other bit. There it is. There and there. Pull this aside. Switch back to my drill bit. that one. Swap out my socket again. Put a washer on each of these. Level this thing back down over the hole. And then we do the same thing with this one. And open up some more washers here. Put a washer in there. Now I found that the electric drill doesn't quite have the power to torque this thing down, so I'm actually using my my socket wrench hooked up to my air compressor, and that really crimps everything down. And that is nice and secure now. So I got one more to put about there, and that is basically going to be the completion of the project. So there you go. Now you saw how it's done. Pretty simple, huh? All you got to do is have the right tools. All right, so it's been another couple hours out here also, so I'm going to put another layer of oak on before I finish up that last row on the shelf, or the brackets inside. And I'm just going to repeat the process I showed you before. So I'll show you what that looks like when we get it clamped down and setting up. All right, got the third layer on and clamped down. Got a good coating of glue this time, and we'll give it another couple hours, and hopefully we'll be able to get that fourth layer on today, and then it'll be able to sit overnight, and maybe we can start doing some finishing tomorrow. That'll be nice, right? So I'm gonna go back in and work a little bit more on putting that final shelf bracket on, and I'll catch up with you in a little bit. Alright, so I got the last of the brackets up. I also did a little bit of patchwork. I really had to fish for this hole a little bit because this hole was not easy to find. It wasn't where it should be. Normally it would be straight down from the power outlet here, the power switch. But on the other side of it here is the light switch in the kitchen, and I suspect that it probably went straight down there from there. So that was ultimately how I found it. I have no idea what this is connected to. It might just be floating in there. Who knows? I've seen stranger things in this house. But anyway, like I said, you can even tell, you know, that looks, you know, all of these, the spaces between these brackets look very, very similar. But when you get down here to the end, this one's off and this one's way off, because this one's way more than 16 inches. So like I said, there's a lot of strange things about how this house is built, and it fooled me in a couple points. So anyway, we got these up. They're all nice and secure now. It should do a good job of supporting the weight of this thing, and shouldn't have any problems with that. So I am going to go put the final row on the table outside, and we'll let that sit overnight. And I think probably next time we'll pick up and we'll keep going with this. So let's get going with that. All right, I got the fourth layer of the oak laminating to the board now. Got the weights on it. I'm gonna let this sit overnight now, and we ought to be able to pick up tomorrow and get this going. We're gonna make a lot of progress tomorrow. Basically what's gonna happen now is we're gonna route off all of the stuff that sticks out here all the way around, including on that side there. And there's a little bit of a lip here, not a whole lot, but we're going to route all that off, get it nice and smooth, put the finishing on it, and who knows how far we'll get tomorrow. But we made good progress today, and anyway, I think that is all that I have for today. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.